Hey, Sami here. I'm not your typical job counselor. I work remote and I travel the world as I kickstart careers. This is raw, real, and on the road.
Hi, I'm Sami, and this is the Career Kickstart Show. And I am so excited to just bring for you one of my just awesome guest expert on burnout. Leah Steele knows exactly what she talks about when it comes to searching for serenity. She had burnout, she fought it, and she can teach you how you can tackle burnout as well. And as somebody who was a lawyer for a long time, she probably knows a lot about stress. So, Leah, I just gave you a bit of an intro, but please tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you, first of all, for inviting me. So, like you said, my name's Leah. I'm the founder of Searching for Serenity, which is a mentoring practice for professional and corporate women who are struggling with exhaustion, burnout, and overwhelm. I founded the business probably about 18 months ago now. I'm losing track of the days. I don't know about you. Because I had gone through massive struggles with burnout, exhaustion, bereavement. And I reached the point where I just realized I couldn't do what I was doing for the next 40 years and either make it out alive or stay sane. So I was looking for an alternative. Searching for Serenity actually came to me. I'll probably tell you a little bit more about everything that happened at that point later on, but I was just sat there one day on the stairs with my head in my hands, and it was just like, it's just constant. It's constant. I can't stop. I'm just searching for some kind of serenity. And fast forward a year when I was setting up the business, I was like, what am I going to call myself? So I work with women predominantly from the UK, because as you can tell from the accent, I'm British. But I work with women all around the world to really help them to get on top, to build their resilience. Yeah, all of it.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And that is something that I have noticed can be such a problem with women, because not only do we have our regular day jobs, but we also come out home and we do the second shift where we do the cleaning or taking care of children or that emotional labor. And it's just like, when is there a me time? Especially if you're in a position where, you're working hard all day and it's like, when is it my time?
100%. I mean, I was at my worst. I was working, well, as a lawyer, 60 hours a week. Then I had an overtime position where I worked on call for 24 hours giving legal advice. There is a certain ringtone that if I hear it to this day, I want to throw up. It made me so stressed. And then I was trying to do all that on top, and I had an ill mother, and I was having to pick up the pieces left, right, and center. And it was so far from unusual. There were people all around me doing exactly the same. So I decided something needed to be done.
Good. And you know what? One thing that I think will be so helpful for a lot of folks is just for you to share your career journey and how you got to a place where you were just like, fuck this, I'm going for serenity. Let's rewind it a little bit and just kind of tell me about where your career has taken you.
Yeah, okay. So I was a precocious little brat. And at the age of 9, I decided I was going to be a lawyer. The reason for that was I grew up in a very dysfunctional family. There was a lot going on there. And I suddenly saw lawyers. There was this one day, I was sat in a legal firm, and honestly, it was like a halo of light above their heads. There were chimes, angel song. I was like, oh my God, these people help. These people, I was a powerless child, and they made me feel protected and empowered. So at the age of 9, I decided to become a lawyer. And from that moment on, pretty much everything I did was about becoming a lawyer. So I got, in the UK, you do your A-levels at 18, then you go to university for 3 years. Then I had to do a postgraduate degree, did it, got through. And I actually trained to be, in the UK, you have a division of lawyers. I trained to be a barrister, which is the one, if you ever watch British TV where there's a court case, it's the one with the black gown and the really old-fashioned wig.
Oh, okay.
I was called to the bar. I've got my pictures. I can see one of them from here. So yeah, I had to wear a grey wig at the age of 22 over the ginger hair. And you have to do a year apprenticeship to then qualify. And I was trying and trying to get that, and I kept getting knocked back. So I did the thing that everybody around me did. I just launched for the next thing. So, right, okay. So I did a job called paralegaling. I know you have it in the US, it's slightly different. Basically, you're a non-qualified lawyer, but you do the same job and get paid a lot less. And so I just jumped into that because I needed to pay the bills. And after a few years, I realised I wasn't qualifying as a barrister, so I decided to qualify as a solicitor. It's the other branch. And did that. Took ages. Kept working second and third jobs on top of my 9 to 5-ish and the rest, just to pay the bills, just to keep going. Throughout all of this, my mum was very ill, so I qualified as a solicitor when I was 28. I moved to a really great job that was 50 miles away. It was a 3 to 4 hour daily commute.
Oh,
yeah.
God dang.
It's actually the next country over from where I am, which is kind of hilarious. So I was commuting into Wales every day, 3 to 4 hours a day, working long hours with a brilliant team. I love them, still love them to this day. But it was kind of like fighting on all fronts. So I had my mum was rushed to hospital, and I horrified some of my clients the other day because the night my mum was rushed to hospital, I'd been in my job for 2 weeks. So rather than travel 100 miles south to go and see my mum, I went to work the next day. And it's that kind of pressure that we all put on ourselves in these careers. You know, I couldn't possibly take a day off 2 weeks into this new job, even though I worked with human beings who would have understood. And it was this constant pressure. So fast forward 2 years, 2.5 years, I worked a week where I worked 4 days. I worked 55 hours in 4 days. One of them was I left the house at 5:30. I got home at midnight. Wasn't all that unusual to work 60, 70, 80-hour weeks. But I worked 4 days, took Friday off, wanted to rest and relax because I was going to phone my mum and it could have been a bit difficult. Took the day off, did a bit of Christmas shopping. It was December. And at 6:30, there was a knock on the door. And I opened the door and there was a police officer. And that police officer told me that my mum had been found dead that morning.
Oh.
Yeah, 2 weeks before Christmas as well. And it's fair to say that everything kind of fell apart, except with everything going on, being an only child, organising a funeral, going through the coroner's inquest, I was back at my desk 5 days after I had booked holiday. I was back on the 5th of January and carried on and was taking a day off here and there to sort out my mum's estate and things like that. And to add more complexity to it, I was working with the estates of deceased people. That was my area of law. So you can see the pressure like piling on. And I just reached a point about 5-6 months after my mum died where I collapsed. I was ill, I was crying. I've been spending most of my days crying in the toilets at work, but actually folding up tissues and putting them straight into my eye so nobody knew I was crying. That's how bad it was. And I just reached a point where I couldn't do it. So I took a local job, realised how much had changed within me over this whole period of mum being in and out of hospital, bereavement, sorting all of this out. I had changed. And I wasn't satisfied by the job anymore. I hadn't been for a while. And I made the choice that I was going to do something different because that 9-year-old girl wanted to help people. The 9-year-old version of me wanted to protect people, to empower them, to make a difference. And what I was doing was helping wealthy people to sue each other. It wasn't what I wanted anymore. And so, 12 years in law, I left 73 days ago.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so I set up Searching for Serenity whilst I was working over the last 9 months, last year or something like that. And I've now got a community of, I think we're coming up to 750 women.
Awesome.
All who resonate with my story. So that's the Cliff Notes version. There's an even longer version of that, but I won't.
You know, what I love about your story, and part of why I wanted you on here, was the fact that you're so right. It's not unusual. You know, there are definitely folks, on either side of the pond, where if you take a day for family, or especially for women, because you always have to prove, employers are always like, you're going to drop out babies and then stop coming to work, or whatever their fear is, that you have to show that you are just as heartless as the guys, or whatever the deal is, and it makes it so people can't do those things that are most important. I know and part of why I really wanted you on was because I've experienced that as well, where you're trying to do the best you can every day. We have very similar motivations. I was doing employment services at a nonprofit, and it was something where, I reached some of my limit, and it was one of those things where I had a moment of truth when my grandma went to the hospital. I had this end date in mind. I was like, I'm going to be done then. The grant will be over. Nobody will need me. I'll be free to go. But the thing is, sometimes we can wait on our dreams, but not everybody can. And that's a hard truth for people to learn, especially for women, because we always feel like we have to give everything to everyone. And it can be such a struggle for so many women. And, that's part of why I was like, okay, I need to have Leah on. Like, this is definitely something that I hear day in and day out with my clients is burnout, burnout, burnout. So with your community of 750 women strong, maybe you're going to have to give some 101, and let folks know, like, burnout, just kind of like for folks who don't really understand what's burnout.
It was something that I actually stumbled across the term. I realized probably about 4 years, 5 years even before I left, that it wasn't working. So different people will exhibit different symptoms, but for me in particular, I wasn't sleeping. Never been a great sleeper, but there was one occasion I woke up at 5 a.m. having had the most vivid dream. Do you mind if I swear, by the way? The story?
Oh, go ahead. I already did.
Oh, you did, didn't you? I'm polite. I'm not usually this polite. I'm usually like, fuck this. So I woke up at 5 a.m. one Saturday morning. I was absolutely convinced, having had a vivid dream, that I had typed an email and sent an email to a client saying, go fuck yourself. Which obviously would have meant I'd have been frog marched out of the building. I'd have had a disciplinary, and there's always been this level with law. It's not just your job. You have a certificate that says you're allowed to do this job, and that certificate can be taken away. And I was seeing all of these horror stories of people who were under financial pressure and dipped into their clients' money, or, even worse, there's a story of one lawyer in particular who she got drunk, had a row with a boyfriend, drove her car and got caught. And she ended up committing suicide a few weeks later because she was so embarrassed. She was so terrified that her practicing certificate would be taken away, that she'd lose her career and her livelihood. And I was seeing these and thinking, oh my God, am I heading down this path? But yeah, so I wouldn't sleep. I would wake up having vivid dreams, nightmares. I felt like I was coming down with flu every weekend for about 5 years, to the point that I was convinced I had an autoimmune condition. I, on occasions, couldn't even walk very far. I get pains in my legs. I was constantly having headaches. I've been out of my career for 11 weeks, something like that. And I haven't been to the chiropractor once. I used to go every 3 weeks, constantly taking ibuprofen. I would feel sick, nauseous. I would have a venti latte attached to my hand. Wherever I went, I was holding this latte, like in front of me, like a shield. And I was completely reliant on sugar and fat and fast food. I remember sitting there once having to write a document, and I just kept, you get brain fog, complete brain fog. I'd get that a lot. 4 coffees in, no difference made. Kept going, and then decided, right, I can't do this, and picked up, this is a very British reference, picked up a bag of Percy Pigs, which is everybody knows Percy Pigs in the UK. It's a soft sweet, basically. And I ate the entire bag so that I could do my work, because without that sugar boost, my brain was not connecting. So I was just constantly on a roller coaster. And like I said, I was crying at work. I was exhausted. And I was just sitting there Googling my symptoms one day, and burnout came up, and I thought, I'm sorry, God, that's such an American concept. I'm better than that. And the more I read about it, the more I was like, oh shit, I'm done. I'm done. And it just made sense. I was literally burning out. What was important to me was gone. If you've seen pictures of me 4 years ago, my God, I mean, you think I look pale now? See me then. There was no light in my eyes. It was awful. So it does vary between different people, but usually you'll exhibit it in physical symptoms: pain, headaches, nausea, exhaustion, not sleeping, stress, anxiety, you name it, it will happen. And it's awful. You feel like you're going crazy.
No, it's so true. I have been there before where I really was like, oh my God, did I just like develop like some sort of anxiety disorder? And it's one of those things where it can creep up, and then you just look back, and unless maybe you're tracking it, I ended up journaling, and that's how I was tracking the fact that I was just like, oh, I'm just like this sometimes. And then I looked at my journal. It's like, oh my God, I have felt like shit for the last 3 months. Physically, mentally, on all these different levels. That's not normal.
It's when you have your Facebook time hop comes up and tells you what you were thinking. Every single day I have something from the last 7 or 8 years that is, oh my God, I'm exhausted, exhausted.com. Someone bring me a coffee. Someone get the number of the truck that ran me over. Whatever it is, it's every single day. And it's horrifying. It really is.
It is, for sure. And thank God that there are folks like you who are able to, because the thing is that, it's almost like being busy and burnt out is celebrated. Like, it's almost like it's a badge of honor to be like, oh, I'm busy. Oh, God, so busy. Oh, I did this and I did that and blah, blah, blah. And it's like supposed to be like this badge of honor, but really it's something that, is a detriment to most folks. Because if you actually like what you're doing, like, your job shouldn't make you feel like crap every day.
And so often I see it that it starts out with this badge of honor because you want validation. Most of the women that I work with, you would think that they were, top of their game. They are heads of department. They have their managers. They have people underneath them. They are, they're not the bitch and knickers type. They're not ball busters, but they get shit done. And yet you get them away from work and their confidence is eaten away because they're exhausted, because they're constantly on their guard of what they're doing and worried and stressed, and it eats away at them. So you first of all see it as this kind of badge of honor, validation, sitting around with your girlfriends having a glass of wine like, oh yeah, I worked so many hours this week because I'm so important, kind of thing. And then it just eats away and eats away. And I found towards the end, I was using it as an excuse. I was using it as a reason why I wasn't going out and seeing friends, why I wasn't doing the stuff that I used to do, why I was falling apart and people were noticing. Because I would say, oh yeah, but I'm working such long hours. And it's kind of pushing people away and keeping them locked out. And you see it with any addict. That's what addicts do. They lock people out, they push them away. And it's just that our addiction is work and trying to feel amazing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, amen. Exactly. It's very interesting for me because I feel like we left our positions at a similar time because we're part of a similar mastermind, the same one. And like I'm always so happy once like anybody leaves a job where they're like miserable. I'm like, praise product, because you finally got out, girl. Like, 'cause that's one of those things you see people who, it's like this badge of honor to like suffer through something. It's like, that's unnecessary. And I'm so happy that you're like, you know what? I know this, I'm doing it, and I am spreading the message to save other people. So going back to burnout and everything like that, when you work with your group and with your clients, what is like for them? because it's sort of like a mental battle before you even get to the stage of leaving or job searching or going somewhere new. It's sort of a mental battle. What would you say is a good first step for somebody to understand that they have burnout and maybe what direction they need to take?
The first thing I say, and this is actually what you'll see from me on Facebook, is the first thing I say is don't quit your job, because it's great. Yeah, you're right. It might be a toxic job. It might be the place that you work, but wherever you go, there you are. And if this is a pattern of behavior that you'll exhibit, you'll take it with you. And I can say that from experience, I moved not only in my 12 years in law, I not only moved between different firms, I moved between different areas of law, trying things out. That didn't work. I think I worked in technically four different areas of law, all kind of related. It made sense. I didn't just pitch up places and be like, hey, employment. But, and this is the thing, I was an expert in my field. I was a nationally recognized expert. I delivered training across the country in the area of law that I worked in, and still struggled with all of this. The first thing I say is don't just quit your job. By all means, look, get out, find out what your passion is if you want to change areas. And my clients kind of fall between 50-50 of the ones who really love their job, who have lost that love for it and can regain it, and then the others who it was never right for them, but they still need to change the patterns of behavior. So once you identify it, and Facebook is a great way to identify it, go back and look at your previous posts, look how often you're telling people how exhausted you are, how often you're cancelling your, time out with your friends, cancelling birthday parties, whatever it is. But just becoming more aware of what you're doing. Because if you're feeling like you're coming down with flu, you've got constant headaches, you're getting treatment for a bad back, that's not normal in the nicest possible way. From there, the ladies that work with me, most of what we do, 90% of what we do, or come as no surprise to you, is mindset. Because I can take them, I can put them in a new area, but they have to become more assertive, more confident. They have to stop people pleasing, because that's a big part of this. We put ourselves last as women. Particularly as this generation of women, because, as we all become slightly older, we are becoming the squeeze generation. As we get older parents, children come along, that's where we're moving to. And I get to the heart of why it is that they don't value themselves, why it is that they tell themselves again and again, you don't deserve to be here, because we get a lot of imposter syndrome, a lot of lack of confidence, unable to be assertive, people pleasing, blaming themselves immediately. It's a big divide between men and women. I see men blame other people, women blame themselves, and we just collapse in on ourselves. So that's the biggest part of the work that I do, and it's through a combination of really, hard sort of techniques, as in time management, document management, how to manage exhaustion, the real tick box stuff. And then when we get underneath it, it's okay. So now you've got some time, some space, and some energy. Why are you doing this? Why is this happening to you? And how can you learn from it and change it? So it's a process. It's a big process.
It is. And thank goodness there are folks who can guide people through this, because that's the thing. None of us are taught this. Like, I don't know, maybe I just came from a bunch of stoic people, but we didn't really talk about, like, here's your feelings, and, your mindset really kind of determines how you look at stuff and how you do things. I had to, just stumble across that concept and be like, oh, I can actually feel better as a human, and consciously, intentionally take actions that's going to, one, make me happier, and two, people want to be around you. I've noticed that once I started harnessing mindset, fighting my own burnout, it was funner being in my head. Two, it was more fun to be around me,
I think I shared in the mastermind that as I started getting better, I even found really strange things. Like, there was a day, I was at a client meeting, I was traveling, I was sat at a train station in December, it was cold, and this random stray cat just gets up and lays down on my lap. I love animals, but I hadn't gone to smush him, because I thought, I'm in a train station in a suit, that would be a bit weird. And animals are literally drawn to me when I stop being the crazy, angry, constantly on edge, constantly crying person that I was 2 years ago. So yeah, it's amazing the effects you see.
And it just reverberates throughout your whole sphere. And you know what, Leah, I think that a lot of folks that follow me, and I think just in general, I think your work is very helpful, especially for professional women who, they're doing cool things, they're evolving their careers. So, Leah, before we end the interview, I really want to know exactly, one, how people can work with you and where they can find you.
Perfect. Well, I am on Facebook. I have my own website. If you searching for Serenity, or one word, you can find me. And I'm sure I can get some details sent out. But there's loads of ways to work with me. And I know that everybody is at a different stage in their journey. So I have everything from 7-day courses on how to eliminate exhaustion or deal with the weirdos you work with. That was a better title. Why didn't I call it that? I'm going to rename that one now. Everything from 7-day audio courses that are straight to your inbox, all the way up to working with me one-to-one. And that's what I'm currently advertising on my Facebook and on my website, is that, and a group program that I'm launching this week. But so much of what I do focuses on give you the time and space to actually spend on yourself, give you the energy to find again, and then let's do the underlying stuff. Because most people don't realize it's a pattern until they start getting into it with me, until they start paying attention. And every single day on Facebook, or every weekday, you'll find me doing a lunchtime inspiration, lunchtime UK, talking about something that's coming up or something that my clients do as well. So there's tons of free resources, because that's the biggest thing. I sat there in the toilets crying with a tissue in my eye for months, if not years, Googling what is burnout, how do I recover from burnout, what do I do? And I used to find really helpful WebMD blogs, and nobody was doing this. Nobody was telling me what to do. So it's all out there. There's tons of resources now that I provide anyway.
Awesome, Leah. Thank you so much. I will have your link, and also give me a 1-minute pitch of the group offering that you are launching this week. What are you launching?
Wow. I actually launched it about, what time is it? 2 hours ago. So Serenity Circle. Yep. Serenity Circle is a new group program that I'm actually only keeping open for 1 week. It is for a very intimate group of women. I'm only accepting 5 more applications. But the whole point of this is we're going to work together for 8 weeks, getting to the heart of why this happens to you again and again. So we'll be working on confidence, assertiveness, people pleasing, how to actually put yourself first, and how to create that routine or that space of calm so that you can rest and relax. And that's going to be through a combination, because I like to overdo this and way over deliver on value. It's going to be a combination of videos with workbooks delivered on a Friday so that you can do it over the weekend, get away to a coffee shop and relax, and then a group call the following week so that you can ask your questions and get really niche support and guidance.
Awesome, Leah. Thank you so much. Everybody watching, this is Leah Steele, searching for Serenity. And if you can watch this in time and get on the Serenity Circle, if you know that you need to tackle burnout for yourself or your loved ones, then this is time to just work with her now. Awesome. Thank you again, Leah. Okay, well, this is Sami, and this was the Career Kickstart Show. Bye.